The week before you take the job, you are still pretending you don't need it. You are sitting in your car in the parking lot of a Target, eating a sandwich you made from the last things in your refrigerator: two pieces of bread, the heel of a block of cheddar, a smear of mustard that's nearly gone, and telling yourself that something will come through. The marketing agency will call back. The freelance client will pay the invoice. Something. You've been telling yourself something for 6 weeks now, and the something has not arrived, and today your landlord sent a text that said simply, "Third notice," which is landlord for "I am no longer being polite." You eat the sandwich and look at the Target entrance and watch people walk in and out with red carts, and you think, no, not yet. That night you check your account balance. After rent, if you pay it, you will have $41. You will have $41 and an empty refrigerator and a phone bill due in 9 days. And a personality that apparently does not translate well to job interviews because you have had 4 of them and heard nothing. You lie on your bed with the ceiling fan turning slowly overhead, and you do the math again, as if the math will change, and it doesn't change. And eventually you get up and search retail hiring near me, and you click the first result, which is a clothing chain called Meridian that you've walked past 100 times in the mall without ever going inside because their prices are insane and their music is too loud and the whole place smells like a candle that's trying too hard. They call you back in 22 hours. The interview takes 11 minutes. The hiring manager, whose name is Derek and who is 24 years old and wears his lanyard like a medal, shakes your hand and says, "You seem like a people person. You have never been described as a people person in your life." But you say, "Absolutely," and that is your first small lie in this job. The first of what will become a vast, exhausting catalog of them. Your starting wage is $13.50 an hour. You will be scheduled for 28 hours a week, because 29 would require the company to offer you benefits. This is not explained to you at the interview. You learn it 3 weeks in from a woman named Colette, who has worked here for 2 years and laughs with her whole body and keeps a bag of trail mix in her apron because, she says, management never schedules breaks correctly. And if you wait for them to remember you exist, you will eat at 9 p.m. But that's later. For now, it's your first day, and you're standing in the stockroom getting oriented by Derek, who speaks very quickly and uses the phrase guest experience 11 times in 30 minutes. The guests are the customers. You are not to call them customers. You are to call them guests and treat every interaction as an opportunity to create a memorable experience, which is corporate language for smile and agree and do not make us look bad. Derek tells you the return policy, the loss prevention protocol, the dress code, the parking validation situation, and the importance of maintaining visual standards on the floor. Visual standards means the clothes must look a certain way, folded to a precise width, spaced evenly on the hangers. The store has a look, and you are responsible for keeping the look. Except that guests, customers, will touch everything, pull everything, hold things up to their bodies, and put them down somewhere random, and your job is to restore the look continuously, like painting a fence in the rain. Your first shift is 4 hours, and by hour 2, your feet hurt. You didn't know feet could hurt this quickly just from standing on polished concrete, but yours do, specifically in the arches, and you spend the rest of the shift slightly redistributing your weight every few minutes in a way that helps a little and then stops helping. You fold shirts. A woman unfolds 3 shirts looking for a medium, finds the medium, and puts all 3 back unfolded. You refold them. A teenage boy knocks a stack of jeans off a table and looks at you and walks away. You pick them up, you put them back, you fold another shirt. This is the job. This is the fundamental physical reality of the job, and it is so simple and so relentless that it produces a specific kind of tiredness that is not quite boredom and not quite frustration, but lives somewhere in between. A gray, flat feeling, the feeling of effort that goes nowhere. At the end of the 4 hours, you drive home and you feel weirdly like you worked much longer than that. You eat toast and go to bed and set your alarm and do it again. By the second week, you understand the store's rhythms. Weekday mornings are slow. Weekend afternoons are chaos. Friday evenings are their own specific category of hell because the mall fills up with people who have just gotten paid and want to spend money but haven't decided on what yet. So they drift through the store, touching everything and asking you questions you can't fully answer, and sometimes leaving piles of rejected merchandise in the dressing rooms like offerings at a shrine. You learn that the dressing rooms are where dignity goes to decompose. You will find things in those rooms, not just clothes, but evidence of people living inside brief private moments of decision and regret. A pair of jeans inside out on the floor. 6 items hung back incorrectly, sometimes worse. Colette told you, and she was right. Don't think about it too much. Derek schedules you for 26 hours the third week. You ask if there are more hours available, and he says it depends on business needs, which means no. You are making roughly $350 a week before taxes. After taxes, it's closer to $290. You have recalibrated your entire life around this number. You have stopped buying coffee at coffee shops. You have become extremely familiar with which grocery items are on sale and in what combination they can approximate a meal. You have learned that rice and canned chickpeas and a wilting bell pepper can be something with enough garlic and enough pretending. You get better at the job without meaning to. Your hands learn the fold automatically. You can recover a table in under 4 minutes. You learn which sections get destroyed fastest and in what order, and you develop a route through the floor that lets you maintain the look while also responding to guests without losing ground on the sections you just fixed. This is a skill. It is a real skill. It is just a skill that nobody outside of this store will ever care about, and you know that, and you fold the shirts anyway. There's a manager besides Derek whose name is Greta. Greta is in her 50s and has worked in retail her entire life, which means she has seen everything and is tired of all of it in a way that has made her efficient and cold. She doesn't dislike you. She doesn't like you. You are labor to Greta, and she interacts with you accordingly, which is to say practically, without warmth, assigning tasks, and evaluating completion without commentary. You find over time that you actually prefer this to Derek's performed enthusiasm. Derek says things like, "Crushing it today, team," and means nothing by it, and somehow that's worse than Greta looking at the jeans table and saying, "This needs to be reset before open," and walking away. There's a guest around week 5 who will stick with you. He's a man in his 40s, nice shoes, a watch that cost more than your monthly rent, and he's upset about a jacket. The jacket was on sale last week. It is not on sale this week. This is not your policy. You didn't design the sale, you didn't end the sale, you have no ability to override the price, and you have explained all of this calmly twice. But he's not talking to you like you're a person who explains something. He's talking to you like you're an obstacle, like you're a system he hasn't found the right input for yet. And he keeps escalating his tone and his logic. This is absurd. This is terrible customer service. I've been shopping here for years, and you stand there and you breathe and you feel something inside. You go very still and very flat because you have learned somewhere in the past 5 weeks that going flat is the skill. Going flat is how you survive a man in expensive shoes yelling at you about $30. You get a manager. The manager honors the sale. The man says thank you to the manager and leaves without looking at you again. You go to the back room and stand next to the hanging rack for a moment. Colette passes you and says, "Sale jacket guy?" And you say yes, and she hands you a fistful of trail mix and says, "Happens every Sunday," and goes back out. That's the other thing about this job. The people you work with, they are not your friends exactly, but they are something adjacent to friends. People who understand the specific texture of this particular unpleasantness in a way that nobody outside this store fully does. There's Marcus, who works receiving and has a theory that every difficult customer is having a genuinely bad day and is just misaiming their feelings, which you find either compassionate or insane, depending on how far into your shift you are. There's Janelle, who has been trying to transfer to the cosmetics floor at the department store next door for 3 months and discusses it with the focus of someone planning a prison break. There's a rotating cast of part-timers, mostly college students, who treat the job as temporary and are correct, and whose disposability the schedule reflects. They get the worst shifts, the holiday scramble, the Sunday closes. You are not a college student. You don't have a backup plan. This is the thing you don't say out loud, but that everyone who has been here more than a year seems to understand about each other without discussing. You're here because the other doors haven't opened. You fold shirts and you do it well and you show up on time and you are pleasant to guests even when they're not pleasant to you. And in return, you get 26 to 30 hours a week. And the knowledge that your hours can be cut at any time and that there is no version of loyal service that protects you from that. The holiday season starts in October. In October, corporate changes the floor layout and sends new visual standards and introduces a promotional strategy that requires you to understand a matrix of overlapping sale events and explain them to guests who've been told one thing on the website and are seeing another thing on the tag. The store gets new music, which is louder than the old music. The hours increase. You're suddenly getting 34 hours a week, which you need desperately, and which you will miss when January comes and the schedule collapses back to 20. You work Black Friday, which is not a single day but a week, and on the actual Friday the store opens at 7 a.m., and by 7:15 the floor looks like something went through it. People pull things off racks and hangers and hold them out to compare and put them down anywhere. You are working so fast, you stop thinking, which is almost pleasant. Actually, there's a relief in having no bandwidth for reflection. Just the immediate next task, the next fold, the next guest, the next question. You stop feeling your feet around hour 3. They've gone past pain and into a general numbness that you've decided is fine. By December, you have been doing this for 4 months. You are different in small ways. You smile automatically when a guest approaches, not because you feel it, but because it's faster than not smiling. It preempts conversations that take longer. You have a voice you use on the floor that isn't quite your real voice. A slightly warmer, slightly simpler version of yourself. And you can switch it on without noticing anymore. You have opinions about floor layout, you know which shelving unit squeaks when you roll it and how to adjust your grip so it doesn't. You know which managers will ignore it if you step away to use the bathroom without officially going on break, and which ones will make a note of it. This knowledge is not wisdom, exactly. But it's something. It's the architecture of survival in a specific place. You have a moment in mid-December that you don't talk about, but that you think about often afterward. A girl, maybe 8 years old, is standing in the children's section with her mother, and she has picked out a sweater with a fox on it, and she is holding it to her chest with both hands and looking up at her mother with an expression of complete hope. The mother looks at the tag and makes a face. She puts the sweater back on the rack. The girl watches her mother do this and then looks at the sweater for a moment, and you watch her make the decision to not cry, to accept it, to become someone who accepts it. You think, I know exactly what that is. You straighten the rack and move on. January is brutal. You go back down to 24 hours. Derek pulls you aside and says that with the post-holiday drop in traffic, they need to right-size the schedule, which means everyone's hours are cut and the part-timers are mostly gone, and those of you who remain feel the loss, not as grief, but as air a certain lightness in the store that should be a relief and isn't. You and Colette and Marcus work the quiet January weekday shifts, and the store is calm and clean, and the floor holds its shape for hours without intervention, and this should be better, but it isn't quite, because the hours are the hours, and the money is the money. You look for other jobs in January. You look the way you've always looked, with a kind of exhausted, low-grade hope, applying to things and waiting, and sometimes hearing back, and usually not. You get a phone screen for a marketing coordinator position, and during the call, the recruiter says the role requires 2 to 3 years of relevant experience. And you have it, but you've also been working retail for 4 months, and you sense in the pauses of the conversation that this has reconfigured how they see you, that something was subtracted from your value when you started folding shirts for $13.50 an hour, which is a thought you have to hold carefully or it will metastasize into something that makes it hard to get up in the morning. You don't get the marketing coordinator job, you apply to 3 more things and hear nothing, and in February you recertify your loss prevention training and get your review from Derek, who gives you a 3 out of 5 on initiative and a 4 out of 5 on guest experience, and says you're a valued member of the team. And then you refold the table. You just folded because a guest undid it while Derek was talking. And you fold it again with the precise width and the staggered sizing and the facing all uniform. And you think, for just a second, that this table right now looks exactly right. And there is a small and embarrassing pride in that, which you allow yourself for about 3 seconds before a woman pulls a medium off the stack and your work undoes itself. This is the truth of the job that nobody tells you and that you couldn't have understood before doing it. It is not the difficulty that wears you down. The work itself is not complicated. It is the repetition of effort that doesn't hold, the fold that gets unfolded, the section that gets destroyed. The conversation you have about the return policy that you will have again identically tomorrow. You are a person doing real work and producing real results, and those results last, on average, 4 minutes before a guest reverses them. You do it anyway. You show up and you do it anyway, and you put on the voice and you manage the flat feeling and you pocket the trail mix when Colette offers it, and you go home and eat rice and chickpeas and you wake up and you go back. There is a version of this story where it ends with something, a breakthrough, a better job, an escape. Maybe that happens. Maybe in 6 months, the recruiter from a different company calls back and the salary is enough, and you put in your 2 weeks, and Derek says they're really going to miss you. And you smile the smile you've practiced for 400 shifts, and you walk out, and the fluorescent light of the parking lot feels different somehow, lighter, and you think about the fox sweater and the girl who decided not to cry, and you feel something you can't name exactly. But that version hasn't happened yet. Right now, you are here. You are standing at the folding table in the women's section at 11:15 on a Saturday morning, and a guest has just walked past and pulled a blouse off a hanger to look at it, decided against it, and dropped it on the table. You spent 12 minutes recovering, and you pick it up and you fold it and you put it back and you check the hanger spacing and you turn to face the floor and you look like someone who is fine, which is the job, which is the whole job, and you are still doing it.